Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munsell. You can't see me very well, can you? Yeah, well, that's probably a good thing. Let me back up just a little bit. It is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It is March 17th, 2016, about 6 p.m. Thursday evening, and I have sort of a St. Patrick's themed PowerPoint for you for Chapter 7. I don't know if you can be able to see it all that well, but nonetheless, I'll put it on KC. I'm going to try to be amazingly brief here, so you can get to, you can watch this tonight with your family or something like that, but also so I can get to dinner and all that jazz. So it's all about me. But here's the thing. This is well, let me go. It's St. Patrick's Day, but you don't need the luck of the Irish to deal with crisis. You need effective crisis leadership. And that's what this chapter is all about. So we have in the first part of the chapter sort of a summary of some of the things that we have learned so far as these practical lessons, these practical chapters, these applied, whatever you call them. So we've had lessons on crisis communication, we've had lessons on managing uncertainty, and now effective crisis leadership. And they say leadership is obviously a critical management skill, and the chapter will define lots of stuff, so they also sort of preview the chapter as they do in every chapter. They preview the stuff in the chapter, and the chapter will present lessons about leadership functions, but also sort of guidance for managing crises. And there's actually not a whole lot of meat in here. There's some obvious stuff, but if you've read this already, it's fairly lean, self-explanatory. It's very lean, like only 7% fat, but 100% Lucky Charms, which is the next thing. Lucky Charms that are magically delicious. Never mind. The little leprechaun. What's his name? I don't know. Hey Finn, no. He's licking his paws. His paws are not doing very well. He's not lucky today. He was at the vets for all day long getting his amino acid infusions and not doing all that great. But, right Finnegan? You'll be okay. No, you won't. Okay. What is leadership and why is it important to all this stuff? It is important. They say that leadership is important. Yeah, you can't see that anyway. But on page 138, they talk about all this type of stuff. Leaders establish a clear vision, communicate that vision with others, collect and distribute information and knowledge, and coordinate the efforts of others. They represent the organization, blah, 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 blah. They go through all of this stuff. So yeah, leadership is important. You can read about it. But then, and they talk about how Peter Northouse, how he talked about different characteristics of leadership. But I'm going to skip that so you can read it, because I want to move straight to the definition of leadership that our authors offer on page 139. And that is leadership. We define leadership as a communication and influence process directed toward followers who are members of a group, organization, or community to assist in achieving some goal or outcome. I think I just dropped something. Maybe not. This is important. There is a lot of various definitions of leadership. Oftentimes folks sort of talk about it from a position standpoint, within an organizational hierarchy, blah, 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 blah. It is a communicative process. Leadership is performed. That is what it is. It is a performance of particular communicative things. And so here it is communicative, an influential process directed toward followers who are members of a group, organization, community to achieve some goal or outcome. So that's really what leadership is. It's a process directed to followers to achieve a goal or outcome. But it's a communicative process. That's the main thing. Communicative process, communicative process, communicative process. What is leadership? It is a communicative process. through communication. Yeah. The big picture here is that leaders are always important to the success of any organization, but particularly important during critical role, or they play a particular critical role during crises. They oversee responses. They might become emergency manager coordinators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so lesson 1 is effective leadership is critical to a crisis response. So whoever is the leader of a particular organization, or multiple leaders, always important, but unbelievably important during crisis situations. That's important. Okay. And it's a no-brainer, but very important. Visibility. That's the next little thing. Why visibility following a crisis? Why? I see. It's very interesting. I see, said the blind man to his deaf wife as he stuck his wooden leg out the window. It's raining. It's not a beautiful day. But in any case, they talk about Mayor Giuliani again. They talk about Johnson & Johnson again. They talk about Philip Donahue. They talk about all this type of stuff. I do think the paragraph in the middle of page 140 is very important. That's a typo, but these cases, these cases that you can read about, illustrate that leaders must be actively engaged during a crisis. They should be visible and accessible to the media. They should be responsive to the needs of victims. They should be actively engaged in the response. This communication helps create the impression that the crisis is being actively managed and reduces the impression that the company has something to hide. There's an overarching theme in this chapter of good leadership ain't hiding stuff. It's showing stuff and telling stuff. Yeah. In fact, it is often appropriate for the leader to serve as a crisis spokesperson, although he or she should work with other members of the crisis team and be trained in crisis communication. And so there's this thing that, how visible, it sort of depends. They say a lot. Always be out there. And again, there's this, they go back to this several times, this idea that there is a tendency to circle the wagons. This, we don't want anybody in. We want to solve our problems. We don't want to blah, 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 blah. But they say do not circle wagons. Going back to being transparent, be visual, be out there. Transparency and honesty build trust, credibility, and support. And that's very, very important. And there's some really interesting strategies on the top of page 141 for this, notion of being visible. And they say, first, recognize that you have no choice but to face the media, particularly when in contemporary times. A crisis is always sort of news. Second, if you are open, honest, and courteous with reporters, then they will usually respond in similar ways. Finally, always be sure to express concern for those harmed by the crisis. This does not mean that you are accepting responsibility or blame. It simply means your organization is human, empathetic, and caring. That's good. So lesson number 2 here is that leaders should be visible during a crisis. Don't circle the wagons as the monkeys attack. Open. Be visible. Transparent. Don't hide. Show. Tell. Visible. 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 I'm petting the monkey. Be visible. Don't welcome the monkey. The next thing here is develop networks of support. And so it talks a lot about Lee Iacocca, if you've heard about him. There's a lot of interesting stuff that they talk about. They also talk about Johnson & Johnson again. But the larger point is, again, we are in the process always, pre-crisis for the most part, of developing positive relationships with all our various stakeholders. And so through that, we create this reservoir of goodwill, again, that we will need if we are hit with a crisis. And so there's not a whole lot of stuff in here except examples. And we have learned this before. So this is, it's from the ethics chapter, it's from the Discourse of Renewal chapter, it's from all these other things. But basically, Have strong, positive relationships with all your various stakeholders. And that is lesson 3. Leaders should work to develop a positive company reputation during normal times to build a reservoir of goodwill, which means, this is the last bullet point if you can see it, I know you can't, but in any case, if you don't do that pre-crisis, you're pretty much out to luck. That's not, that sounds Irish, doesn't it? Is that magically delicious? But you're out of luck. No, you're not going to deal with a crisis very well at all. It's going to be impossible if pre-crisis you didn't create these relationships and you didn't create a sense of credibility for and a good reputation for your company in the first place. There's a pattern of folks who fail during a crisis have set themselves up for failure by being a poor company really in the first place. But in any case, or a poor organization, a not open organization. Which leads me to being available, open, and honest. Again, some of this is sort of redundant, but I like this idea. Don't be an attorney. You will probably get sued. Who cares? But this idea that, again, be open and honest. I do like this stuff from James Lee Witt from FEMA. Communication is more than talking. It's the honest and open exchange of personal views. Where there is a history of wrongdoing, the natural first impulse may be to hide the wrongdoing. Company attorneys often advise leaders to say as little as possible following a crisis. They typically argue that any statement about the crisis can be used against the organization and may increase the organizational liability. Yeah. Finish barking. Yeah. So basically, they say that's crap. Don't listen to the attorneys. In short, lesson 4 is leaders should be open and honest following a crisis. Be open and honest. Don't hide. Don't circle the wagons. Again, this is a big trend, right, in the chapter and in the book. Next, impact of leadership on renewal. So they talk about strong core values and all that type of stuff. Basically, the larger point here is good leadership. You have to have good leadership if you want to enact this whole renewal thing. And you remember the renewal stuff where there's an opportunity to re-examine everything post-crisis and to really renew, have a rebirth in your organization. And then in some cases, the opportunities, the company can become more visible if they weren't previously. So the company came out, whatever, this is General Motors, came out of bankruptcy, much leaner, stronger, and profitable. So leaders who manage crises successfully may create opportunities for renewal. That's it. That's lesson number 5. That's pretty much it. And it implies, again, all the stuff that we've been talking about throughout the course of the semester. So that's sort of like things that are cool. all these things are cool. Then they move on to bad stuff, bad leadership, ineffective leadership during a crisis. And they have all these things. Again, don't hide. Bad leaders hide. Don't shift blame. Bad leaders shift blame. Don't minimize the severity of the crisis. Bad leaders minimize the severity of the crisis. Don't be selfish. It's all about me. I like that Hayward stuff from BP. Tony Hayward, what a little piece of unlucky charms. Straight from a horse's unlucky place. He talked about he wanted his life back. Yeah, well, some people died. And then while the Gulf Coast fishermen and recent residents suffered the effects of the oil spill, Hayward was photographed at a glitzy yacht race in England. What a ass. And so there's all these different types of examples of poor crisis communication. Firestone and Ford and their public brawl and this idea that they were much more concerned with themselves than the customers. And so there's all this type of stuff. And there's more examples of Wall Street, the Catholic Church, So I'll let you read all the bad examples, but growing out